Hey, what's up, guys? Ron Harris here, MD Online Editor. Today, we're going to have a little fun. Usually, we do interviews, talk about contests, things like that, but let's have some fun. People ask me, Ron, what's the biggest bodybuilder you've ever seen in person? Got me to thinking, who are the top five, top six? Let's do top six mass monsters I ever saw. And we're excluding the current guys. And of course, leave in the comments, who you believe should be in this list, either from the past to present. But I want to go through some of the people that impressed the hell out of me just based on the freakishness, because we're talking about aesthetics and this and that coming back and beauty and symmetry. But some people really appreciate that hardcore freaky mass. I always did. I appreciate all the great physiques, whether they're beautiful to look at or just a brutal assault on your senses. So let's start with Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman, particularly in 2004 at the Olympia, he was 296 pounds. This was the heaviest he had ever been. A lot of people, myself, preferred his look at a lighter weight when he was about 245 to 260 when he won his first two Olympias, when he won the Arnold Classic. But two Olympia appearances, 2003 and 2004, where he was 287, and then 296 pounds. It was just lights out, game over. From the minute this guy came out on stage, he just blew the show away because he was still in good condition, not his best condition. Best condition was at the lighter weights, but it was still enough to just dominate the shows both of those years. And the crazy thing was 2003, he had come back about 20 pounds heavier than the year before. 2002, he had still won the Olympia, but a week or two later, he got defeated at a show called the GNC Show of Strength by Gunther Schlierkamp. One of the very few times, the only time he was ever beaten during his Olympia reign until he lost the title to Jay Cutler, of course. But that's when he came back, did a video called The Cost of Redemption. That's when we saw the 800-pound. Oh, no, we saw that in earlier videos. But just suffice to say, Ronnie came back as big as he possibly could. And then a year after that, he came back almost another 10 pounds of muscle. It was a freakish sight. It was incredible to see. I don't think we're ever going to see that again, particularly with the way Ronnie's muscles just hung off the body. He had a very, very unique look to his musculature. Number two, Markus Ruhl from Germany. Markus was 5'10", in his prime. He's still alive. 270, 280 on stage. He only won two shows, 2000 Toronto Pro and 2002 Night of Champions, which had a field of 31 men that year. But Markus did 33 pro shows from 1997 to 2010. Wasn't afraid to compete, obviously. 2004 Olympia was his best place. He got fifth place. 2003 Arnold Classic, he got third place there. Markus was known for these tremendous delts, huge, thick chest, just a massive, massive guy. Didn't really have a huge bubble gut or anything, but he didn't have the prettiest shape, prettiest flow, the lines, the symmetry, all that. It wasn't a pretty physique, but man, he was just enormous. And I remember seeing some of the footage of the 2002 Night of Champions that he won, and I thought the footage had been distorted, like stretched out to make him look thicker, but no, that's exactly the way he looked. He was with MD for a long time, a few years. Man, some of the pictures of him Per Bernal took were just insane. Markus was one of the greatest mass monsters of all time, in my opinion. He had a great DVD called Made in Germany. A lot of cool training. It was in black and white. Funny scenes where he'd go to the grocery store with his girlfriend at the time, and people were like whispering about him. It was hilarious. Next up, we got to go with Nasser El Sonbaty. Rest in peace, Nasser. Nasser was 5'11", competed usually around 280 to 290. Massive, massive man. Took second place at the 1997 Mr. Olympia in Long Beach to Dorian. A lot of people thought he should have had that show. It was not Dorian's best. He won 6 shows, including the Arnold Classic. He competed in 53 pro shows from 1990 to 2010. The 90s was an era where they used to have all these Grand Prix shows all across Europe, and he used to do almost all of them in a row. In 1995, Nasser competed in 9 contests. 1997, he did 10 shows that year. So a lot of these guys that say they can't do more than one show, especially the bigger guys, they say they can't peak. Well, this goes to show you it can be done. Guys like Nasser and a lot of the guys in the 90s used to compete multiple shows back to back for weeks on end, all across Europe, all kinds of crazy traveling conditions. They still managed to pull it off. It was done. But Nasser was also a very smart guy, good friend of Milos Sarcev, the Mind, but he was just incredibly massive. traps, delts, chest, arms, legs, everything about him. Did not have the smallest waist. The 90s was the era where we started seeing all these mass monsters, and we did start seeing the midsections grow. But a lot of fans, they just want to see brutal displays of thick, dense muscle tissue, and Nasser Somebody had that. He had that in spades. Nasser was just a huge human being. Next up, we'll go with Paul Dillett from Canada. So Paul Dillett was 6'1", competed anywhere from about 265 to 280 at his best. He was another guy that did a lot of contests. In 1994, he did 8 shows. 1996, he did 10. 1997, Paul competed in 11 shows. He won the 1999 United Champions. Paul was known not only for his height and his tremendous width, which now we're seeing with guys like Samson Dowd and Andrew Jack. He was known for these crazy big round shoulders, huge arms, big quads, pretty small waist. He had a crazy V taper. From the back, he was not as impressive. I think the shoulders were so massive, he was never really able to build up the back thickness to match the way his shoulders looked in the back shots. But goodness, from the front and from the side, he was just amazing, Paul Dillett. One of the first guys we'd ever seen with that kind of height and width in bodybuilding. We'd seen some taller guys before, but none of them had that type of thickness. Paul Dillett definitely set a new standard and was a freak. They even called him Freakenstein because he kind of looked like Frankenstein. He had a flat top head. I just need a couple bolts. Next up, we're going to go with the late Greg Kovacs, another rest in peace. There might be a pattern here, guys, with mass monsters and passing away young. There might be. Greg was 6'2", competed around 325. He was more famous for his off-season look. He was about 400 pounds. 400 pounds. I saw him many times in person. I actually drove him to one of his amateur shows in Los Angeles in the early 90s. He only did 5 pro shows, never placed. He actually placed dead last in all of them. He did not have a very pleasing shape and structure. His waist was very wide and thick. But you want to talk just massive human being. He was as big as a lot of these world's strongest man competitors, but he was a bodybuilder. He had these crazy shoulders, crazy arms. He was just a massive human being. One of the biggest human beings I've ever stood next to in my life. Pretty. It was not pretty. And, that goes to show that he made a great living. He was with Muscle Tech for years. He was their poster boy in all their ads. He was billed as the world's strongest bodybuilder, was a very strong guy. In fact, I remember a story, a legend about him. It was actually true, where he had gone to Niagara Falls to watch a contest, and they had a bench press meet. And the guy, the last press of the night, the guy did, I don't know, 500 or 600 pounds or whatever, walked away. And as everyone was filing out of the auditorium, apparently he went up there and he was dressed like a lumberjack with a big flannel shirt. Whatever the weight was with no warm-up, he did whatever the top weight had been of that bench meet, and he just repped it out like nothing, 10 reps or something, and put it back on the stands. I think only a few people were left to see that, but he was an incredibly strong guy. And just to show you, he had that gym body in a tank top where you couldn't see how big the gut was. You couldn't really see what the shape was like. Just crazy, very, very impressive with the sheer mass that this man had. Last but not least, let's go all the way back in time to the 1980s. And to the early 90s, Vic Richards. Vic Richards was the original Nigerian, long before Andrew Jack, Samson Dowd, and all these other guys, Quentin. Vic Richards actually emigrated from Nigeria to California as a kid. He won the 1983 Teen Los Angeles. So he technically turned pro. He went back to Nigeria and won the national championships against a couple skinny guys. Never competed as a pro. However, there's a very famous video of him at the 1994 FIBO convention in Germany where he posed down against current Mr. Olympia at the time, Dorian Yates, and he was actually a little bigger than Dorian. Was he better? No. Vic is another one that from the back, his back did not match the rest of his body. He needed a lot more thickness and width to the back, but goodness gracious, arms had to be about 23, 24 inches maybe. I remember seeing in Muscle and Fitness at one time, they taped his quads out at like 35 or 36, his thighs. He was huge. I remember he trained at the gym I trained at for a few months. It was the World Gym in Pasadena, California. And he would ask people to spot him. And our dumbbells only went up to 150. He didn't need a spotter. He did those 150s for flat and incline like I was doing 50s at the time. And he was upset that we didn't have dumbbells that were heavier. But he was so strong, so thick. Just a shame we never saw him diet it down. He was about 5'9", 300 pounds. I think in shape, he still would have been about 270, 275, but he would diet down to be lean enough for a photo shoot, but never quite in what we call true contest condition. Often wonder if he had brought up his back and got his condition down, how good could Vic Richards have been? We'll never know, but he was definitely one of the original super freaks, one of the original mass monsters of the sport, way ahead of his time in terms of that denseness and thickness. We wouldn't see that again for a few more years, till the 90s, until Dorian set that new standard and people started chasing that. We saw guys, Jean-Pierre Fuchs should be on my list. He's honorable mention from Switzerland, also a massive guy. But those were my picks, guys. My top 6 mass monsters that I ever saw in real life. Please leave some comments below on your picks, people I left out, people that should have been on the list. Who's on your list? Who do you think's the best mass monster, or the freakiest mass monster right now competing, from the past? Anything. I'm curious to get your feedback because, man, like we said, we love the shape and symmetry and aesthetics and proportion and all that. We like the pretty physiques, but there's always been a special place for the mass monsters because it's bodybuilding, and these guys exemplified that. So please subscribe to the channel. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, drop some comments below, turn on your notifications so we have when we have great new content coming out. It's been cool talking to you guys. See you right here next time. Thanks for watching. Hey, did you like that video? Smash that like button, subscribe to MD, and please comment down below. Thanks for watching.